We owe Elon Musk a debt of gratitude. Tony Stark and Bruce Wayne screwed us. And I don't even mean in the conventional Batman is actually a terrible superhero and Iron Man got Captain America killed in the Civil War comic book run. I mean, Bruce Wayne and Tony Stark are the reason that we are here today. The American and capitalist mythos always require a benevolent class of capital holders. Adam Smith can call capitalism a net good only when the people with their hands on all the levers of power have a modicum of connection to the humanity. They have to see themselves as part of the system and not entirely above it. For a long time, the highest net worth groups in the United States were a part of humanity. The Rockefellers and Carnegies were close enough to the real world that maintaining a universal standard of acceptability was in their best interests, partly because their worlds and the worlds of the average person were not so unbelievably distant that they didn't overlap, but also because the physical distance between the true elite and the abject poor was also not that distant. And if every decision the titans of industry made universally ruined lives, they would have to hear someone shout that directly in their face every time they turned around. Now, at some point in the recent past, a new version of ultra-wealthy came into being, and they were the silent billionaires, people with staggering wealth, but with increased distance between them and the everyday life of the lower classes. And they quietly, almost invisibly, pulled at levers and exerted influence around the country and around the world to make their lives better at any cost. They did things like kill mass transit projects, fight against living wage, dismantle public investment in education and the arts, eliminate safety standards, that kind of stuff. Epitomized by the Koch brothers, this group of silent influencers made our everyday life worse at every turn, with little to no fanfare, or even worse, with sufficient scapegoats, allowing them to reap the benefits and pawn off the hatred to the masses. Because these billionaires moved in such silence, common people, being aware that billionaires existed, had to create an avatar of a billionaire to conceptualize. Bruce Wayne, the owner of the deeply magnanimous Wayne Enterprises and philanthropic chair of the Wayne Foundation, was the face of that humanitarian billionaire. Tony Stark, and what was a healthy distrust of existing power structures, he was the protector of all and built a world that was safer and more just using his highly calibrated sense of righteousness and moral compass. With the real billionaires of the 80s to early 2000s being largely invisible, and the most prominent billionaires being fictional altruists, the average American was primed for a relatable, brilliant humanitarian billionaire. Enter Richard Branson and Steve Jobs. Richard Branson was novel in that he was loud, but seemingly pleasant, and a humane billionaire who cared for the people that worked beneath him, and just wanted to have a good time whenever possible. Very little that he did pushed the boundaries of what was possible, but he seemed like a good dude. Steve Jobs, on the other hand, was a severe man, but someone that pushed technology and human innovation to an unimagined level. His obsession and vision gave us the personal computer and the iPod, and we mere mortals hailed these men as great. And not just great, but good. Suddenly there were real-life billionaires worthy of our attention and praise. And, more than ever, the myth of capitalism that has billionaires as benevolent overlords was everywhere unspoken. It was in the shine of this light that Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk entered the building. As Jeff Bezos built the dark mirror of Wayne Enterprises, a company that had hands in everything but left nothing but destruction in its wake, suddenly there was a question about the trade-off that a billionaire CEO creates when they offer convenience and ubiquity. And, being such a visible part of society, scrutiny on other billionaires began to grow. But, with Elon Musk, we entered back into the glorious billionaire vision of a billionaire who just wanted the best for humanity. He wanted to eliminate greenhouse gases and create autonomous driving to save lives, pour money into public transit. He was going to be Tony Stark brought to life. And, despite some early hiccups in his public image, there remained the hope that he would make progress for the sake of humanity. Cool! Now, we know that he was in fact an utterly delusional, self-aggrandizing, thin-skinned champion of whatever got him the most attention and the most adoration. He bought and subsequently destroyed Twitter and his promises of zero emissions, self-driving cars at a price point for all, and Mars colony were just things that he could say to be worshipped. But here's the great thing. Every time the world's richest man heavy-handedly involved himself in government affairs, Americans noticed that he wasn't doing a good job. And in fact, the only areas in which he seemed to be particularly effective were the ones that directly benefited him and his peers at our expense. I genuinely think that one sad billionaire's terminal case of main character syndrome is going to be the reason that America begins what will likely be a very painful process of developing wide-scale class consciousness. Thanks, Elon.